There's a few things to consider when setting up the leads for milling out your sink. The amount of blowout from the core bit in your material, a place for your mill bit to enter and retract, and if a pod is needed to support your sink cutout blank. Some materials may be stout enough to allow the blank to drop. The blank would need to be moved out of the way if we're going to profile and or polish the inside of the sink. In either situation, with or without a pod, we'll need to think of placement of the start point or the lead in and lead out of the mill bit. We'll usually choose the thicker left or right side rather than the thinner front and back. The same is true with an oval sink, which can give us a very small space to fit our leads in. We'll use this oval sink for our example. We'll start by applying a mill bit using our regular leads, which also shows the location of the pilot hole, which we probably want farther away from the sink's edge. Let's take a look at our current lead in and out settings. Then we can adjust and edit them as needed to mill out the sink without using a pod for support. I'm going to adjust the lead in away from the edge of the sink as a safer place to drill my pilot hole. I'll start by changing both my approach angle and my retract angle from 45 to 90 degrees. And now with the lead in pointed away from the edge, I'll increase the length of the line from 1.5 times the tool diameter to about 6. These settings look good for milling out a sink without a pod. I'll add in a pilot hole and drill it, and then run it in simulation, where we'll see first the pilot hole is drilled away from the edge of the sink, where the mill bit is dropped in, then it goes around and cuts the sink out, and the sink blank should break off right towards the end of the cut, and the tool will lead out into air before it retracts. Next, let's take a look at the settings if we were to use a pod to support the blank. Our objective will be to have the pilot hole drill away from the edge of the material so the mill bit can go and cut out the sink and retract at the same point that it entered to avoid breaking the tool or damaging the material. The mill bit needs an entry point and a retract point. We cannot retract the tool while it is cutting in the material. So we'll edit our lead so it retracts from the same pilot hole. We'll start again with the standard lead settings. I'll start by changing the approach and retract angle to 90 degrees. Next, I'll change the lead in and lead outs from both a line and an arc to just a line. And we'll want these lines to be further away from the sink edge, so I'm going to change the line length to 6 times the tool radius for both the lead in and out. And finally, I'll remove the 1/2 inch overlap amount so that the lead out follows the same line as the lead in did. And like before, I'm going to add in my pilot hole cut, which I can see is safe and won't drill into my pod. And here again, we'll view this in simulation, where we'll see the mill bit drops into the pilot hole, goes to the edge of the sink, cuts the sink out, and then goes down the same path that the lead-in made to retract out of the pilot hole. And just like any other cut operations, they can be saved as styles. See the video, Creating Styles, if needed. Thank you for choosing Park Industries.